Harsh Covenant, a small offshoot of the notorious Vishirai mage clan. Oris's careful and scholarly research of the prime evils and other demons has been passed on to Cain through historical and scientific tomes. One intriguing piece of information Cain has gleaned from Oris's research is that not all abominations and violations that appear in Sanctuary are of hellish or demonic origin. For instance, the Walking Dead are unique to Sanctuary and are not created in the burning hells, but they can be awakened from their morbid sleep by activities of demons and angels. In other areas, Cain has turned to the writings of his own ancestor, Jared Cain, for information, especially as it concerns the prime evils he and his brother mages battled. The accounts by man of the burning hells are very limited. Cain hasn't gone further than the Pandemonium Fortress, and Oris relies on information gained by Vishirai mages who summoned demons into Sanctuary and interrogated them in most ingenious ways. Other information has been gained by casting holy powers into possessed humans, compelling demons who reside within them to speak. Still, more knowledge has been gathered from scattered fragments, such as the Guage cave inscriptions found chiseled into a limestone cave wall beneath Kyrgyzstan, inked long ago with blood. We know nothing of their author or the circumstances of their writing. We can only speculate that they might have been transferred to humans through dreams and divination. is Ondariel, the Maiden of Anguish. Ondariel is the twin sister of Duriel, a male evil who is referred to as the Lord of Pain. The final two evils are the ones most mysterious to us, for they have not yet come to Sanctuary. However, many of the prophecies express a fear that they will. These two are Belial, Lord of Lies, and Asmodan, Lord of Sin. You now have a brief introduction to the hierarchy of hell, and now we'll explore each of them individually. In the next section, we'll focus also upon what is known of the evil's domains in hell. It is interesting to note here that the borders of their domains are constantly shifting as the boundaries within the hells crash into and encroach upon one another. It is as if the borders themselves are in conflict. The first prime evil we'll talk about is Diablo, the Lord of Terror. He is the root of all fears buried deep within mortal minds. He is the nightmare that awakens us, sweating in the dark. He is an entity of pure malevolence and depthless evil, and he has plagued Sanctuary on several occasions and tormented mortals time and time again, more often than any of his foul brethren. Age as we know it does not seem to apply to the lords of hell, though Diablo is generally considered to be the youngest of the three. It may also seem odd to assign positive traits to a demon, but nonetheless it is said that Diablo is the most creative and far-sighted of his brothers, perhaps of all the evils. Many claim that Mephisto is the most intelligent, but intelligence has as many facets as does evil. Diablo is calm, cunning, and patient, and best understood when we view all his actions as attempts to instill terror in those around him. Consider the components of terror: a mix of fear, shock, and utter hopelessness. Perhaps Diablos' most insidious power is the ability to cast his influence deep in the minds of his victims and latch upon their greatest, most crippling fears. Then to apply that knowledge and, in doing so, use a person's own worst fears against them. As perverse as it may sound, Diablo sees himself as an artist of terror. Deckard Cain can attest that when he was subjected to Diablo's evil, it seemed to him as if Diablo derived from it the pleasure that an artist takes in his work. Perhaps Diablo sees each of us as a canvas. Diablo knows that conquest comes when enemies panic and turn their backs to their fears rather than face them. However, and this is an important concept to grasp, Diablo does not acquire his satisfaction from conquest itself, as perhaps Mephisto might. Diablo feeds on the terror that precedes the conquest. To him, the fear a victim has is a greater reward Horus's nature, it remains now for me to describe his realm of terror within the burning hells. To begin, Vishar Horus states from the extracted testimony of demons who claim to be familiar with this realm of living nightmare that it is the least populated of all the territories in hell, for few demons can withstand its unrelenting torment. The realm of terror is lonely and desolate, filled with horrific scenes of darkness and shadow, fear and surprise. The resultant tension constantly cycles to a crescendo of madness and horror. To catch even a glimpse of this festering netherworld would be to spiral into the depths of unceasing despair. Horus's abhorrent description of this realm seems to fit Cain's own knowledge of Diablo. He attacks most effectively by twisting the fears that already reside within every human being. Is it possible to conquer our fears? Deckard Cain hopes so, but he also believes that terror can never truly die. Finally, Cain writes, "For as long as man fears the dark, Diablo will remain the most insidious, and he would argue the most powerful of all the evils. The next prime evil is Baal, the Lord of Destruction. Baal revels in the utter annihilation of not only the world around him, but also all those who inhabit it. The particulars of Baal's early existence are much like those of the other evils, endlessly battling with the heavens. Baal likely never tired of the war, partially because he never exhausted all the opportunities for wanton destruction. Given this, it would be easy to assume that Baal is simply an elemental brute, and Cain has encountered many people who believe just that. But Cain also adds that Baal is just as cunning as his nefarious siblings. His assault on Mount Arreat is just one example of his ability to use strategy and deception to further his ends. Baal's realm in the burning hells is a frenzy of constant destruction, wherein he breeds demons only for the sheer gratification of destroying them. It is said that he has built some of the mightiest structures in the hells, perfecting bastions of impenetrable strength, only to see them pulverized into unique and different ways. There is one other thing of great import to remember. At the heart of the realm of destruction lies the Hell Forge, which, ironically, is the realm's single source of creation. This is one of the very few places in hell men have actually seen, and those who have been there have reported that the greatest weapons of the burning hells are forged within it. It is said that hell-forged weapons are infused with elements of the lords of hell. Of course, it must also be noted that these items are used to destroy. Once again, we see that the theme of creation said that if there is truly a leader among the burning hells, it is Mephisto, and also that Mephisto is the most adept at playing his brothers against each other. Diablo and Baal chafe at his manipulations, but more often than not, they comply, most likely because Mephisto provides them with ample opportunities to pursue their ambitions. Perhaps this is why Mephisto is seen by some to be a unifier, a great tactician. It is Mephisto's greatest ambition to pit entire societies against one another, to turn brother against brother, sowing discord and distrust at every turn. The Lord of Hatred might look at Sanctuary as his own private ant farm, presenting him with endless, fascinating opportunities to fuel the flames of conflict. To Mephisto, hatred is a tool, though one he wields with utmost precision. The Lord of Hatred despises all, but he loathes angels above all else, and so the inhabitants of Sanctuary are seen by him as weapons to be forged in his likeness, to be aimed one day at the high heavens. And if history is any indication, Mephisto is well positioned, for hatred has shaped more of humankind's history than all the other evils combined. A very important note here is that Mephisto is the father of Lucion and Lilith. It is of great interest that Mephisto's seething hate of even his own offspring caused Lilith to rebel and forge a forbidden union with the angel Endarius. Lilith seized the opportunity, knowing full well the depth of her father's enmity towards the angels. Thus it is ironic that her father's hatred drove her to ultimately birth the race of Nephilim. Nephilim will be discussed later in a different video, but basically they are the humans that inhabit Sanctuary, and they are the heroes, or rather the ancestors of the hero that you play in the game. Of Mephisto's realm, Cain has read numerous accounts recorded over the centuries by scribes and mages. They report the Lord of Hatred's domain as a place heavily populated by demons who gather in multitudinous formations, conspiring to create factions based on competing ideologies. Within warped fortresses and shadowed palaces, the seeds of hate are planted. The factions constantly vie with one another, allegiances shifting and reversing, all under Mephisto's watchful eye. A master of strategy, Mephisto is endlessly fascinated with the plots and machinations of his subjects. To his eternal joy, the scheming often leads to all-out, bloody warfare. Perhaps this is why it is also said that Mephisto's realm is the capital of the burning hells. And that was part 2 of the Diablo lore. see